CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd with us, 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak, and Dennis was in Scottsdale, the Big 12, the Pac-12, college athletic directors and much more meeting, and, of course, television networks and executives as well. Dennis, you had a report a couple of days ago about there was a meeting and an ESPN representative mentioned that the Big 12 would be a part of just 3 conferences, or the ESPN would be a part of partnerships with 3 conferences. I've confirmed that same thing myself, not that you needed me to. Were you surprised kind of like by the reaction of everybody going, oh, my God, that's not the case?
No, I mean, look, I got tough skin. I stand by my reporting. Life's too short. I don't need to get into that. I will say that, like what you've probably figured out, when that happened, jaws dropped in that meeting. It was kind of a coded thing in that the ESPN executives didn't say the Pac-12 was out, but it was a process of elimination. And in doing the story, I talked to ESPN people, and so it's vetted that way. So it is kind of surprising. That being said, everything's qualified. It's been 48 hours since that report, and who knows? They could be back in.
Did you sense any, because there was a lot of different groups there, did you sense any of how the Pac-12 ADs or reps compared to the Big 12 ADs and reps? Was there any conversation between the two? Was it in any way awkward or even tense?
None at all. The meetings are at a resort, the Hyatt Danny Ranch, and everybody's kind of just glad to be there in good weather and hanging out by the pool and getting work done at the same time with their wives playing golf. No, there really wasn't any of that at all. In fact, all these guys and women are very collegial. So no, I saw them talking to each other. So there was nothing like that. No.
Do you get the impression that someone or a program from the Pac-12 is already in discussions with the Big 12 in any way?
Oh, they've been discussed. I mean, I reported last July that the Four Corners had had discussions, and there have been face-to-face discussions within that group regarding what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. So, no, that continues to go on. Look, those Pac-12 schools would not be doing due diligence if they didn't. I mean, it happened in the Big 12 in 2010 when Nebraska and Colorado left. I'm trying to remember what order they left in, but everybody scrambled for the phones. In July of 21, when Texas and Oklahoma, Smoky, you know this, it looked about 2 or 3 weeks there, it looked like the Big 12 was done.
Yep.
And to Bob Bowlesby's credit, he went out and did this, deal with the 4 extra schools really, really quick and got everybody rallied back together. But I think part of the lessons from realignment in 2010 is every man for himself, and when it comes to be desperation time. So, yeah, I would expect that.
So Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, a couple of days ago with the report about ESPN, it appears out of anything with the Pac-12. You also mentioned Tier 1. Does that still leave, you think, the door open for late night on Saturday with, if in fact, let's just say it's Apple Plus, and then they go to ESPN and say, hey, we're going to give up this time period. How much will you pay?
Yeah, the issue, and the answer is yes. The issue is I don't know what Tier 1 looks like. Exactly. I did a story earlier this year tracking their highest rated games the past 12 for the last 2 seasons, taking USC and UCLA out. And 4 of the top 5 involve Oregon and or Washington. That makes total sense. But that's 5 games. The rest of it looks like, it's really up to the right tool. We'd like these games and we'll pay X for those. So, yeah, I think, as it was communicated to me, there could still be room for ESPN for a smaller package if it comes to that. We still don't know what was communicated to the brethren at the Pac-12 this week was they are confident they have a major carrier for their tier one rights. So everybody in the industry kind of going, well, who? They can't figure it out. So is NBC/USA Network one of those? They've got to keep their powder dry for they're doing negotiations for WWE, UFC merger. That's a big, big property that is coming on their radar that they want. And how much money do they have left after that? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I had somebody yesterday bring up USA Network, and I think they have the WWE. Obviously, you mentioned that, but also NASCAR, and they're really early in their season, basically, since they don't start until early February with the Daytona 500.
Yeah, and those, frankly, are bigger than what the Pac-12 is right now, and that's part of the issue right now is that for the first time that I can remember in this kind of realignment merry-go-round in 2010, we all started really covering it, with the business, Pac-12, Big 12, what have you. There's a Power 5 conference that they get on television, but there's not a rights holder that needs them on television. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whoever gets them doesn't need the Pac-12. Because we know that now, because if they did, they'd have a deal. That's 2 plus 2.
Dennis,
so what does that mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you obviously have reported quite a bit on this, and and we have, and others have. Have you ever had a Pac-12 AD reach out to you and try to pick your brain or say, hey, wait a minute, this is not right?
I had one apologize to me this week, for ripping me on Twitter, and that's okay. I have thick skin. I don't, I can sense their frustration, the league frustration with trying to get something done, and it has become kind of a, it has sucked all the oxygen out of the room for a conference that's, by the way, really, really good football this year. I had 6 teams ranked in my post-spring top 25. They've got the reigning Heisman winner, even though it's USC, Caleb Williams, and they're going to leave. They're still in the league. Michael Penix Jr. of Washington is right there. For a league that's been out of the playoffs since, 2015, they got a heck of a chance to be back in. But that's not the first thing you think of when you talk about the Pac-12, and that's unfortunate.
Do you think there might be something sooner rather than later? Not on the TV deal with the Pac-12, because that does appear to be still maybe down the road. Do you see any way, shape, or form something that might pop involving somebody from the Pac-12 and the Big 12? And I don't want to use the word imminent, but do you see that possibly happening somewhat soon?
I don't think I do, because there's 2 ways this could go. Well, there's one way this could go. First, the Pac-12 gets a deal. Okay, and I do think they'll get one. Breaking up is a strong word, especially since the Big Ten appears not to have any interest in Oregon and Washington. I think they'll get some sort of deal. Then, is it good enough? And do teams get nervous? Do they get within, how close do they get the Pac-12 within that $31.7 million number that the Big 12 has? Then do they do anything? And then, because the Pac-12 needs a deal first, then do they expand? Or do they have to expand? And that's another level to this. And that's a whole process. So I don't see anything imminent. In other words, you have to get one before you expand, I believe. You saw the remark from the San Diego State AD Sunday, I think, in The Athletic, where it was a story by Seth Davis about San Diego State's success in basketball. Midway through the story, the AD said, well, it's going to be one or the other, Pac-12 or Big 12. Everybody got noticed that. And it was accurate. I checked it. It wasn't, I was checking to see if it had been mentioned offhand. He didn't mean to say it. Nope, absolutely meant to say it. So you've got that. So I think there's some steps here, and I don't, would I be surprised if we get a news dump at 5 o'clock today? No, because that's college athletics. But I think it's going to be a while. Yeah.
You're right. I have never seen. Yeah, you mentioned the Texas OU, and you and I, we were on a couple of different times, and we were very heavily involved, fortunately, because of connections of what was going to happen after Bowlesby in the conference was basically all but knocked out. But they've been through this like they have a cat of nine lives when it comes to this. Have you ever seen anything as, for example, lingering as this one is with the Pac-12 in the time you've covered college athletics?
No, and they're making the case that, first of all, I should say, officially the conference is sticking to its guns and saying late spring, early summer for a deal. Now they've kicked this can down the road enough times, but we'll see. Have I ever seen this? No, because the Pac-12 keeps saying, well, the Big Ten waited until less than a year before their deal, and it's not even apples to apples. It's the Big Ten. The news had just broken that they were adding USC and UCLA. The deal was way down the road. They had to integrate those two schools into the deal real quick before announcing it. This is what we just said. There doesn't appear to be a deal imminent. The conferences is not in a position with leverage. There's a lot of mystery involved in it. And yes, so now they're July 1st, 2024, their deal expires. So we're getting close to being inside a year on that. And there's a lot that has to be done if and when they do a deal, schedules, everything else. So, no, I haven't seen anything like this in the Power 5.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, and I mentioned this again. Dennis doesn't need me to do this, but I myself also was told last night that there was a meeting with the ESPN representative during the meeting with the ADs and whoever else was there about the fact that they were going to be a part of three conference partnerships, and obviously the ACC, SEC locked up, and the Big 12 is too. So whatever that might mean, who knows? And like you said, we could wake up on Monday or Tuesday and go, wow, something else has happened, because it is so fluid. And Dennis, thanks for your time. Appreciate you very much. Be safe on the road, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, Talkie, thanks.
Thank you. Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports on 365 Sports.
Pizza, burgers,